the Catholic Church.
Love the Catholic Church. It's just the best place to be.
From the studios of EWTN, this is Open Line. In North America, call toll-free 1-800-585-9396. That's 1-800-585-9396. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985. You can also send an email to openline@ewtn.com.
A tremendous Tuesday to each and every one of you. I hope you had a spectacular Memorial Day weekend. I know I did. Got a little much-needed rest. And we're coming to you live today from the studios of Covenant Networks here in beautiful St. Louis, Missouri. Our thanks to Tony and Teresa Holman and the whole gang here at Covenant for letting us use their facility to bring you this Tuesday edition of EWTN's Open Line. Our pro-life warrior, Barbara McGuigan, is in the house. If you've got a question or comment for Barbara, the number is 1-800-585-9396. That's toll-free anywhere in North America. 1-800-585-9396. If you're outside the United States and Canada, your number is 1-205-271-2985. And we'll put you straight to the front of the line at 1-205-271-2985. Or you can send us an email, openline@ewtn.com. I'm Jack Williams. Michael McCall, celebrity producer today, as the lovely and talented Elena Rodriguez gets some much-needed and much-deserved rest and relaxation. And I believe that Matt Gubensky is screening your phone calls. And our host, as she is every Tuesday, a host who is in need of the army of pro-life warriors to get behind her a little bit. And that's our pro-life warrior, Barbara McGuigan. Barbara, how are you?
I'm fine. I like how you want the pro-life army, because I always want the pro-life army behind me. Put it that way.
But your foot hurts, huh, Barbara? Is that what you're telling me?
I feel so silly to even bring this up, but I have to have surgery on Thursday morning for a nerve tumor, a ball of nerves inside my foot. And I can only wear flip-flops and Birks. So I need to be able to put on a shoe so I can make my way through airports.
This isn't going to make you politically liberal, is it?
No.
Okay.
No. This is all good reparation. I have to have a knee scooter, Jack. Did you ever travel around on a knee scooter?
I never have. I've often scoffed at those who have, however, so I'll laugh at you too.
Well, go right ahead, because I feel ridiculous. We have to pick it up today. And crutches, get my crutches today. So for a month, or maybe, well, it could be 6 to 8 weeks. It depends on how it heals.
Well, we certainly ask all of our listeners to keep Barbara in our prayers going forward, and we will certainly do that, and hopefully you'll have a more speedy recovery than the...
I don't doubt it.
Quicker than the experts thought. That's what we're going to pray for, but
Thank you, Jack.
Your healing will come fast and furious.
Beautiful.
Speaking of fast and furious, Marxism. That's where you want to start today, huh?
Well, you know what? Last week I mentioned that I'd like to talk about cultural Marxism, which is at the very heart, really, of this whole moral disintegration in our cultural madhouse. And I would guess that more than a few good people are buying into socialism hook, line, and sinker right now during this whole 2016 campaign. And but of course, people in our circles, our listeners, including yours truly, we know that the gay so-called marriage did not start with the gays, but with the sterile sexual revolution. That's sterile, I added to it, that's my word. But I've been studying Michael Walsh, and his views, he expressed by Austin Ruse, who is a friend of mine, in his crisismagazine.com article. And he said, well, no, wait a minute here. There is an even more fundamental cause at the heart of the matter. Because I think the better we understand what we're dealing with right now, the better we can respond and become more committed to respond. Put it that way. So who is Michael Walsh? You want to ask that question, and that's okay. He wrote a book, and I haven't gotten it yet. I've ordered it, called The Devil's Pleasure Palace. And by the way, he is a faithful Catholic who is ardently pro-life and pro-marriage. He believes, as I believe, and probably many of you believe, that our struggle against cultural Marxism is a fight against who? Old Hairy Legs himself. I believe it with all my heart, and so does he. And he believes that the United States may have defeated an empire, but we did not defeat the idea, because Marxism is alive and well, hale and hearty, and practically everywhere, down at the community college, the town hall, even at the Elks Club. Austin said, it's in the air we breathe. He's not a pessimistic kind of guy, and so, I thought to myself, well, of course not. How can you be a faithful Catholic and a sad saint at the same time? Impossible. So Austin shakes it up. If you don't know who Austin Ruse is, he shakes it up as a watchdog at the UN, and he's also the head of the Center for Family and Human Rights there at the UN. And this is how he explains Michael Walsh. He believes cultural Marxism is spent. But just like the fingernails on a cadaver may still grow, and that these people and their evil theory will continue to do damage and harm souls, it is up to us first to recognize what is truly at the heart of the matter, and then to stop it, which is why I bring this up at the first place. So just like we all know that gay so-called marriage didn't start with the gays, as I mentioned earlier, but rather with the sexual revolution, it prepared the ground for gay marriage by enshrining all this sterile sexual activity among heterosexuals. So Michael Walsh explains something more fundamental is at the heart of the matter, and the sexual revolution was only a part of it, Jack. He mentions three things: cultural Marxism, critical theory, and this is something I've never known about, the Institute for Social Research, which is also known as the Frankfurt School, spawned cultural Marxism and critical theory. And their ideas are still coursing not only through all of our society, but through your own veins, whether we know it or not. And I'm going, whoa, not through my veins? Wait. The man in 1936, psychiatrist William Reich, coined the term sexual revolution in 1936 in a book of the same name. Now, Austin says Reich was a crackpot of the first order. Even his Freudian colleagues avoided him like the plague. Reich was sex mad and very likely insane. His goal was to reconcile psychoanalysis with Marxism, and that economic Marxism would fail because, all goes back to this, because of the repressed sexuality of the working class, which is why he believed Marxism could only be achieved by undermining the institutions. They actually referred to it as the long march through the institutions. This guy was a paid-up member of the Frankfurt School and one of its most influential. He made his way to the U.S. and then later died in prison, basically, as a con man. I'll tell you the institutions in a second, but I'm sure you can guess. So let's go to critical theory. Critical theory, was central to their plan. The goal is societal transformation, put all these words together, through the emancipation of mankind from all forms of what they called slavery. Now, who do you think were the slavers? You got it. The church, particularly the Catholic Church, the family, and the free market. So whenever you hear someone bad-mouthing American history, that is critical theory. If they're bad-mouthing the patriarchal family, the rape culture, multiculturalism, political correctness, speech codes, all critical theory. The point is to make you question everything. And in the questioning, they believed institutions will fail. In fact, we hear critical theory every single day from politicians in very high places who long to tear down the institutions. Give you a few names: communist Frank Marshall Davis, professors, Saul Alinsky, and other wicked men who hated Western civilization. Most of them brought their poison to the U.S. during World War II. And would you believe that this overtly Marxist institute, the Frankfurt School, which was founded to undermine Western civilization, was actually, hold on to your chairs, invited to move its operation to where? Columbia University in 1935. And from this lofty perch, said Austin, these men began the drip of poison into American culture.
Just getting started on an open line Tuesday with our pro-life warrior, Barbara McGuigan. If you've got a question for Barbara, the number's 1-800-585-9396. Toll free anywhere in North America. 1-800-585-9396. Open line Tuesday.
On Easter Sunday, Mother Mary Angelica returned to the arms of the Lord she spent her life serving. Now, the religious orders and the Catholic media network she founded celebrate her life the way she lived hers, through prayer and service. EWTN Home Video invites you to join the Franciscan Friars of the Eternal Word and the Poor Clares of Perpetual Adoration for Mother Mary Angelica's Rite of Reception and Divine Mercy Chaplet, Solemn Vespers in Memoriam, Vigil and Rosary for the deceased, Rosary in Memoriam, and of course the Mass of Christian Burial with Archbishop Chaput. To get your copy of In Memoriam, Mother Mary Angelica, PCPA, log on to our web store, EWTNRC.com, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and type in item number HDIMMA or call 1-800-854-6316.
How do you honor Mary during the month of May? Share your photos and stories with us. Email communications@EWTN.com and we'll post as many as possible on our social media sites.
This is Cardinal Sean O'Malley, Archbishop of Boston, Massachusetts.
This is Marcus Grodi, host of The Journey Home.
Hello, this is Archbishop Joseph Tobin of the Archdiocese of Indianapolis. You're listening to EWTN, the Global Catholic Radio Network.
This is Open Line on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. If you have a question or comment, call 1-800-585-9396. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985 or send an email to openline@EWTN.com.
Hey, be sure to visit EWTN on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/EWTN Radio. Facebook.com/EWTN Radio and give us a like if you would be so kind. Our pro-life warrior, Barbara McGuigan, is in the house. If you've got a question for Barbara, the number is 1-800-585-9396. Toll free anywhere in North America. 1-800-585-9396 if you're outside the United States and Canada. And if I can stay in front of the microphone, your number is 1-205-271-2985. 1-205-271-2985. Or you can send us an email, openline@EWTN.com. Barbara?
Yes.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Are you ready?
I hope so.
What is the antidote to tyranny?
Because you're right. This absolutely is tyranny. Because, you see, the whole thing is, and this is kind of what it comes down to, the communists, which is an extreme form of socialism, okay? They learned that human beings wouldn't give up their creature comforts for a worker's paradise, but they will cling to their sexual indulgences unto the death. It's sad, but this is what they learned. And they saw that they could use this weakness to undermine the family, the church, and any other institution that could stop the onslaught of the mammoth state, because they're all about state control. So, the antidote to this, well, if you think about Karl Marx, like all modern tyrants, he hated religion, Christianity in particular, because it would be impossible to get men to follow him as long as they continue to follow Jesus. So the first thing an aspiring tyrant in the middle of Eastern Europe needed to do was to uproot and destroy Christianity. Because when Christ becomes the center of a man's heart, there's no room for Marx's alternative, which is atheistic humanism, which that's what we're seeing here right now in the United States, for the most part. So you look at the consequences. Because without God, men can be convinced to believe anything, even Marxism. So the whole idea is our young and our old, some of our old, have moved beyond God, and they see Christianity is completely outdated. And so when they come up against socialists, Marxists, even communists now, they feel that this whole idea appeals to them because it's not telling them no. They can't follow their passions. And they riot, and they chant, and they throw bottles at the police. They slam the horses, even causing chaos. Remember Joker last week? We talked about Joker and Batman hanging on a building. Remember that, Jack?
I do. I'm awake.
Too
I'm
long,
awake.
Jack.
This is a road game for me, Barbara. You have to be patient with me.
Well, Batman says to Joker, what do you want? What is it that you want? And he said, chaos. And that's what's being created right now. And the Joker would be very proud. But Pope St. John Paul the Great understood this very well. He also knew that as long as Christians continue to follow Christ, I'm talking about the antidote, like those in Poland and Eastern Europe and everywhere else, he knew if they followed Jesus, they would endure and outlast any and all tyrannies, Marxist or otherwise. He saw it coming. He knew what trouble, I'm talking about St. John Paul, he knew what trouble was heading to America. And I don't know if you remember this, but when I heard him say these words in 1976, he was still a cardinal. He didn't become pope until 78. In his farewell address to the Eucharistic Congress in Philly, and then I will end with this and we'll get to the colors. We are now standing, he said, in the face of the greatest historical confrontation humanity has ever experienced. See, he knew what was coming. He said, I do not think the wide circle of the American society or the wide circle of the Christian community realize this fully. We are now facing the final confrontation between the church and the anti-church, between the gospel and the anti-gospel, between Christ and the antichrist. This confrontation lies within the plans of divine providence. It is therefore in God's plan, and it must be a trial which the church must take up and face courageously. So Christianity is the answer.
We want to hear what you have to say at 1-800-585-9396. Our pro-life warrior, Barbara McGuigan, is in the house. Our leadoff hitter today is Jeremy, listening in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. He's listening to EWTN on Oklahoma Catholic Broadcasting. Jeremy, you're on with Barbara McGuigan.
Hi, Jeremy.
Hi, how are you?
Great, thanks. How can I help?
Well, I had a question pertaining to the pro-life. I completely agree that life begins at conception and all that, but why do you think that should be the law of the land? Why do you not think that other Americans who don't have that belief should have the right to or not choose what they do with their bodies and their children, I guess?
Well, you know what, Jeremy, and thank you for your question. It's a good one. It already really is the law of the land in God's eyes because we are not permitted to murder, right? We can't murder. And what we're doing with unborn life, we're taking the life of a completely innocent human person. In the womb, however, but still a completely innocent human person. See, we believe that all life is sacred, Jeremy. Do you believe that we came from God and that we're going back to God?
Yes, ma'am. I completely agree.
Okay, well, that's good. So the whole thing is, granted, it is not strictly a political or legal decision. It's God's decision, basically. God is the creator of all life. That's what it means when we say all life is sacred. We came from God. We're going back to God. So the whole thing is, when you make a law, when you cover the unborn with a law we already have, thou shalt not kill, then the unborn needs to come under that umbrella, because you look at the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, you look at all of these issues that are political, legal documents, right? They should cover the unborn because we have to respect all life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. If you're not permitted to be born because your mother or father or both do not want you for whatever reasons, then how in the world will you ever pursue happiness as a dead person? And you can't be free as a dead person. So this is why it kind of hooks up with political and legal situations, but it's an actual law of God that we cannot kill this because of the sanctity and the dignity of the human person starting in the womb. Because if life isn't sacred in the womb, it's not going to be sacred outside the womb either. Agree?
But do we not think that as Americans that every citizen should have the right to live as they see fit, as long as it goes within the law of the land?
Well, sure. If it's within the law of the land, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, of course. They have the right to make that decision.
Passed is completely legal. And I'm not arguing that life is not sacred. I completely agree with that. But my friends have been asking me why I should want legislation to reflect that when I also believe in personal liberty.
Because how else can you stop the killing? No one has the right to choose to kill an innocent human being. No one has that right. Come on. Even though...
And you know what?
Go ahead, Jack.
Well, and you know what else you can ask them, Jeremy, is what would their position have been prior to 1973?
Hello.
Would they have asked the reciprocal question of those folks?
I agree. And the argument they bring up is how Muslims in Muslim nations live under Sharia law, and what difference is that if we start to mix religious political ideals with secular religious ideals?
Wait a minute, but secular religious ideals? Explain what you mean by that.
Or political ideals, I'm sorry.
Okay. All right, secular political ideal. The whole thing is because we already have a law that it's wrong to murder someone. Okay, the law's already there, but the Supreme Court, 6 out of the 9 justices, decided that because they didn't really know about fetal development, which we certainly know about now, we certainly understand, and many justices have called it a very flawed law. And that's what we're trying to do, eliminate the very flawed law. Because when your heart begins to beat at 18 to 24 days after conception, most of the time the mom doesn't even know she's pregnant yet, 18 to 24 days after conception, what this law says is go ahead and flatline that kid's heartbeat. If you don't want it, if it's not convenient for you to give birth to this child, flatline that heartbeat. And you can flatline that heartbeat up until that day that little kid is getting ready to be born, Jeremy. Yeah, that's the law. So this is why we're trying to work this out. I'm sure you must see the rationale in this, do you
yes,
not?
Yes, ma'am. I completely agree. I'm just trying to mostly figure out how I can explain to my friends who don't believe
what I just said.
And how this is accomplished, I guess.
Because nobody has the liberty to kill an innocent human person. No one has that liberty, because thou shalt not commit murder.
You might ask them to try to, you may try to ask them, Jeremy, to make a compelling case to you that an unborn child is not every bit as human as you are.
There you go. Good point,
That's a
Jack.
hard case. That's a hard case to make.
Well, thank you guys so much. You've really helped me out, and God bless you.
God bless you, Jeremy.
God bless you, Jeremy. Appreciate the phone call. If you've got a question for Barbara or a comment, the number's 1-800-585-9396. That's toll-free anywhere in North America. 1-800-585-9396. If you're outside the United States and Canada, we'd love to hear from you as well. Your number is 1-205-271-2985. That's 1-205-271-2985. 2985, and we will put you straight to the front of the line at 1-205-271-2985, or you can send us an email, openline@EWTN.com. We're talking pro-life topics as we do every Tuesday with our pro-life warrior, Barbara McGuigan. And Barbara, we have one more topic that you wanted to cover. And this is what we call in the business a tease. So they're going to have to wait to hear exactly what your third, and it's a doozy. It's very explosive, wouldn't you say so, Barbara?
I would certainly say so.
1-800-585-9396. Open line Tuesday with Barbara McGuigan.
This is Patrick Coffin. Join me for Catholic Answers Live. It's 2 hours dedicated to Catholic apologetics and evangelization. Designed for Catholics and non-Catholics alike, it's your opportunity to hear from and talk with some of the leading apologists and theologians in the church today. You've got questions? We've got Catholic Answers. Catholic Answers Live, weekdays 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
With Mother Angelica, A Remarkable Life. Shortly after entering religious life here at Cleveland's St. Paul Shrine, Sister Angelica was beset by health woes. She had tonsillitis, constant colds. At one point, her knees began to swell because of all the kneeling and climbing up the 5 stories of this monastery. On at least 2 occasions, she was almost thrown out of the monastery. And then she was transferred to Canton, Ohio, her hometown. There, the swelling in her knees subsided, and she continued with religious life. Stay with EWTN as we continue to celebrate the life and legacy of Mother Mary Angelica.
EWTN is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If your cable or satellite provider doesn't carry EWTN's full programming lineup, give them a call and let them know you would like to receive EWTN 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
For more information, go to EWTN.com and click on television.
This is Open Line on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. If you have a question or comment, call 1-800-585-9396. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985 or send an email to openline@ewtn.com.
Have you ever wondered what the kingdom of heaven looked like? Well, tonight, if you tune in to EWTN, you will find out as Mother Angelica Live Classics, Mother talks about that very subject. What does the kingdom of heaven look like? That's 8 Eastern tonight on EWTN radio and television. Back to the phones we go, driving through the great state of Arizona. How am I doing? Oklahoma is Garrett. Garrett's listening on Oklahoma Catholic Broadcasting. Garrett, I moved you to the desert, brother. You're on with Barbara.
Hi, Garrett.
Hello.
How are you, good man?
I'm doing all right. I just had a quick question. I did get off on the subject of debating the pro-life, pro-choice with a buddy of mine. Yes. And I said that all life is sacred and that we shouldn't be committing murder. And he comes back to me with, well, it's not technically doesn't have its soul until it gets its neshama, breath of life.
How does he know?
Adam and Eve did.
Ask him how he knows that for a fact.
Well, he was telling. I don't have him with me anymore. This was a conversation we had earlier today. It's just
I understand.
Kind of coincidence, but he was telling me something along the lines of we get our soul when we get our neshama, our breath of life, like when Adam and Eve were created in the garden. Wondered what you would use to combat that with.
Well, a lot of times these are the same people who revere science. They think science is above any kind of faith or reason, and it's most unfortunate because we just know that you don't need to breathe in order to be alive because the baby is all connected to the mother's to the mother's umbilical cord, right? And so this is where the baby gets the oxygen that the baby needs and everything else, the food supply, all of these things. My brother joined a cult a long time ago. The Way, it was called, The Way International. And my brother and I went round and round, Garrett, over this because in the cult, they teach that you're not alive until you breathe. And it's unfortunate because all you have to do is look at fetal development and look at science. And you see that that might be something that somebody drummed up to be true, But that is really not the case. So you have to look, and what I would do is really get him up to speed on fetal development facts and the heart rate, the heart beating at 18 to 24 days after conception, the fact that they can actually get dream patterns on the brain waves. I mean, it's really phenomenal. We don't know what they dream. Only God knows what these unborn little children dream about. But it's very significant to understand fetal development. And thank you so much for driving through Oklahoma and giving me a call, Garrett. Keep listening, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. God bless you. Bye.
1-800-585-9396 is our toll-free number. That's the number Lawrence used in Lubbock, Texas. He's listening to EWTN on Our Lady of Victory Radio.
Yes, Lawrence?
I called to make the appointment, to make my point, and that is...
Go ahead, Lawrence.
That Roe versus Wade decision was egregious because our legal system does not make a decision when there is a shadow of a doubt. And the very first sentence of that Supreme Court decision, Roe versus Wade, Justice Blackmun wrote, it's not necessary for us to determine when human life begins. Obviously, that cannot be termed or described as the law of the land. It's wrong.
Exactly. It should be illegal, and that's what we're all working to do, Lawrence. And Lawrence is my good friend, and I'm glad you called up, Lawrence. He's brought me into Lubbock to speak, 2-3 times, right?
Yeah. About 12 or 14 years ago.
Right, it was a while back, that's for sure. So you're right, Lawrence. I mean, we need to declare Roe versus Wade illegal, and there are more and more people that are starting to see the light regarding this. What would you say to that, Lawrence?
Yeah, there shouldn't be any doubt at all with modern medical science that teaches us with ultrasound technology. It is beyond a shadow of a doubt, and that's the main point. Beyond the shadow of a doubt, it's a human life that begins from the moment of conception. And so that decision, we don't have to go through the legislature and Congress and reverse that decision. It's the fact that that decision was wrong.
Yeah.
With modern technology that is available at our disposal, that is egregious.
Yes.
And most people say Roe versus Wade is the law of the land. Well, it's not. You can't.
Right.
You're
absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And like I say, we have people starting to understand that this is right and starting to make laws. Now, where was it now? Just recently, and the governor said she didn't think it would stand up, where they just made a pro-life law that abortionists would receive some sort of fine, jail time, something like that. They were trying to make it illegal, it didn't hold up. But more and more you're starting to... I mean, isn't it about time, Lawrence? I mean, I hope before I die. It would be nice, before we died, that Roe versus Wade could be overturned. I really hope that's the case. But if it's not, hey, that's okay.
But, the Congress and the White House is issuing new regulations saying that every doctor should now perform abortion when a patient asks for it. And if they don't, they will lose all, care and all proceeds and funds from Medicare and all.
Yep. That's exactly right. And of course, this current administration is trying to force Catholic hospitals, to do abortions. It's all part of the agenda. And it's most unfortunate. What we have ahead of us, they can lie louder, but we can tell the truth longer. Do you agree, Lawrence? We can tell the truth longer, and this is why we have to re-evangelize and rebuild a Christian humanism for the sake of the world, right? I mean, this is what you do, this is what I do, this is what we all should do in our own sphere of influence. So,
and Barbara, we have our annual fundraising dinner, and last year we had Melissa Ogden testify the fact that she was, actually born as a result of a botched abortion.
Yes.
Remember that?
Oh, yeah. Well, I recognize the name. I know Gianna, a little Gianna, who was also survived an abortion.
Right.
They don't even know how the little gal, it was a late-term abortion, and they don't know how she got out of the place where she was aborted and taken to a hospital. I mean, they don't even know those kind of answers. But, yeah, it's phenomenal. But we got to stand for life, and we have to shore up the institutions that they want to break down because they will surely be under attack. I mean, you look at our schools, our universities, our ethics, all of our hospitals, and most especially we need to shore up our mothers and fathers, don't you think? So we have these good, solid families that produce our children, for Pete's sake.
Right.
So,
there's no such thing as the law of the land that allows us to kill a baby, a human life.
Absolutely, really. And you shouldn't have to be a brain surgeon to figure that out.
Right.
And this is what's sad. But you see, when you start to have a culture who no longer recognizes God, this is what happens. And all the devils are dancing, Lawrence. You know this. So we have to keep out of it. Thank you, good man, for all who you are and all the good work you do. God love you.
Thank you.
And say hi to Irene for me, too, okay?
I will.
Okay. Of course I do. God bless you.
Yeah.
Bye.
We've still got plenty of time for your phone calls at 1-800-585-9396. That's toll-free anywhere in North America. 1-800-585-9396. Straight ahead, we'll talk to Frank in New Jersey, Louise in Texas, and hopefully we'll hear from you. Open Line Tuesday with our pro-life warrior, Barbara McGuigan.
EWTN is now on Twitter. Get short, timely messages from EWTN on your computer or cell phone. It's easy to stay up to date on a wide variety of topics. Pro-life news, Vatican announcements, catechesis, apologetics, the latest EWTN programming, and more. You can link to EWTN on Twitter from our homepage or go to twitter.com/EWTN. At work, at home, at school, and on the road. Stay connected to your world with EWTN's Twitter page.
May is dedicated to our Blessed Mother. Visit EWTN's Facebook page to see the many ways EWTN viewers and listeners around the world are celebrating Mary's Month. #MayAltar.
For a complete list of the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network AM and FM stations across America, go to EWTN.com. Look for the radio pull-down menu and select AM/FM stations. The list is updated regularly, so visit often. Again, go to EWTN.com. Look for the radio pull-down menu and select AM/FM stations. Also at EWTN.com, you'll find out how to listen to us on the web, on shortwave, and in some countries on satellite. You'll find it all on EWTN.com.
From EWTN News Nightly in Washington, D.C., I'm Catherine Seltner with an EWTN Newslink. About 40 miles west of Baghdad, a battle to retake Fallujah is in full swing. Officials say Iraqi forces repelled a 4-hour attack by ISIS terrorists in the city today. The International Organization for Migration says at least 1,000 people have died or are missing in the Mediterranean over the last week. There have been a string of deadly incidents on the Mediterranean route between Libya and Italy since May 25th. Cincinnati police say they are not considering any charges against the parents of a 4-year-old boy who got into a gorilla enclosure at the Cincinnati Zoo. The gorilla was killed Saturday by a special zoo response team that feared the boy's safety. And Pope Francis urges Christians to serve other people without delay or hesitation. In his homily for today's Feast of the Visitation, Pope Francis points to Mary's example of service to Elizabeth. Watch tonight at 6 Eastern.
This is Open Line on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. If you have a question or comment, call 1-800-585-9396. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985 or send an email to openline@ewtn.com.
We've still got plenty of time for your phone calls. 1-800-585-9396. Open Line Tuesday with Barbara McGuigan. Next stop, Ewing, New Jersey. Frank is listening to EWTN Radio in Ewing. Frank, you're on with Barbara McGuigan.
Hey, Frank.
Hi. That was a wonderful call before, making sure we don't get caught up in the law of the land kind of argument. But also, your response in terms of the whether or not there's a soul there argument was very key, too, because what you focused on was the personhood of the person rather than whether or not there's a soul. Because the church doesn't actually teach that we get a soul at the moment of conception.
Yes,
sure
you
seems
are
logical, but that's
yeah.
one of those kind of things where it can just turn into a quagmire when you get into a discussion. It's really the personhood and human life of the situation that needs to be protected.
Yes, and I agree with you 100%. And but the whole thing is that the child has everything else. Why wouldn't God implant the soul as well at conception, right? Is kind of the way we look at it. But no, you're right. The church can say, oh, the child definitely has a soul at conception. So anyway, but thank you so much. That's a good point that you're making. Thank you.
God bless you, Frank. Appreciate the phone call there in New Jersey. We'll head now to Nebraska, where Lisa is listening to EWTN on Spirit Catholic Radio. Lisa, thanks for holding. You're on with Barbara McGuigan.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi. I have a quick question. It's twofold. You can have an abortion up to 36 weeks. Is that correct?
Up until the day the baby's born. And that is this is according to Roe versus Wade. And they're saying even for matters of mental health. And that I don't remember. Jack, do you remember the exact wording on that? But yeah, yes.
Okay, so that 36 weeks we consider a baby viable, although with technology, 20 weeks, all those things you can
it's
still have.
That's right. Good girl, yes.
With giving birth, people can go and have a baby in their own home without medical care. We're not required. Midwife or even out in the backwoods, have your baby, you're fine and good, right?
I'm not sure about that.
That varies by state.
Yeah, that varies by
state.
Because, I don't know that a mother would consciously have a baby in the backwoods unless she absolutely had to.
But there's no law saying you have to go deliver a baby in the hospital, correct? Or if you break your arm, you don't have to have medical care. If you don't
it would depend on your OBGYN, some, or like you say, midwifery, that they will deliver a baby at home for sure. Sure,
well,
yes.
Well, my question is if a woman wanted to give birth on their own, if they did not have access to an abortion clinic or funds or whatever, and at whatever time maybe goes into labor, obviously, you can do things to cause that to happen. And while the baby is still in the womb, can you manipulate yourself and kill your baby while it's in your womb? And that would be considered giving yourself your own abortion, because women who decide to give birth or can't have an abortion, once they give birth in a bathroom or throw it in a trash can, they're murderers and they're charged. So can you give yourself your own abortion?
Many women are doing that now, Lisa. Did you not know that? They're doing that now when they take abortifacients. Abortifacient, birth control pills, RU486, Plan B, the whole list. They're taking their own pill to abort. So, I mean, it's you don't even have to have an abortion clinic around, is what you're saying, right? Yes.
Right.
So what's the point, though? I guess
if I killed my baby with my own hands and gave myself my own abortion, not by a pill, but strangling or whatever while it's still in the womb.
Goodness.
And then just kind of what do you do with the baby then? If you can have it in a clinic up to 36 weeks, that's my point. If you think it's okay because a doctor does it.
No. Oh, no. Anyone who kills a baby would have that.
But I'm saying if I killed my baby while it was inside of me.
How could you?
Then let
How
it come
could you?
out,
How could you?
If you're in the middle of giving birth, or you decide you don't want your baby, and you can, the baby's either all the way in or 90% of the way in, and you suffocate it or whatever you do, is that considered your own self-abortion?
It's considered murder. Sure.
Okay,
you're being your own abortionist. You're trying to be your own abortionist.
Right.
Sure.
So why is it if a physician aborts a baby inside someone that it's not murder? I just don't get that.
It is. Oh, I see what you're. Okay. I'm finally understanding. Yes. Sorry, I'm with my feeble brain here. It is murder. Sure, it is. Yes. If he's killing it inside the womb or killing it outside the womb, it's murder, and that's exactly what I think you're getting at. Yes. You are absolutely right, Lisa. Thank you so much for calling.
God bless you, Lisa. Appreciate the phone call. We'll head now to Carmel, Indiana, where Ralph is listening on Redeemer Radio. Ralph, you're on with Barbara McGuigan.
Hi, Ralph.
Hi, Barbara.
Hi. How can we help?
Well, I just have a couple of points. I usually, when I'm talking to my pro-abortion friends who don't like to be called that, they drive the point home that there's a certain point where life begins and life does not, and they usually say that that's at the point of birth or several weeks after that, and I say, well, why is that? Well, because of the heartbeat or because of brainwave function or all of that. Well, I mean...
No. That's all fetal. That's in the womb.
They can't, they say that they can't support themselves, and I'm like, well, they can't support themselves until they're 5. If you take a 5-year-old and just leave them, I mean, what are they going to do? Make cereal? What happens when that runs out?
It's so true, and that's a good point you're making, because think of an astronaut. He is not part of his spacesuit, okay? But he needs the spacesuit for the amount of time that he's going to be in outer space. So the baby needs the mother in order to have a safe place. It's not too safe these days. A safe space, put it that way, in order to grow. You're making good points, Ralph. Good points.
But I usually... when it usually stops, I stop the conversation. Well, I don't stop the conversation. They stop the conversation, because I usually say, well, where's your authority on where life begins? Because when I was in 9th grade biology, I was taught that in order for something to be alive, it had to have a nucleus, DNA, and it had to be self-motivating. And that's what the egg and the sperm are.
Good
and they come together, and there's no unbroken chain of life.
Amen.
It's a continual cycle. The life is always there. I don't
right.
understand where they think that. I was like, where do you get? Where do you say there's no life? That's biological
because
fact.
It's convenient, Ralph. It's convenient. The longer you're in this, and I'm thankful to God we're marching lockstep, because I'm praise God for you, because you are willing to discuss these things boldly, but with charity, of course. But the whole idea is so many of these poor souls are caught up in rationalization and denial. They have a horse in the race, put it that way, in some way, shape, or form. This has been my experience anyway. They either drove a girlfriend to the abortion clinic, they were the father of the child, they're involved in abortion in some way, or maybe they have a sister who had abortion, or even a mother who had an abortion. They have an involvement in some way. Has been my experience when they talk so vociferously against life, especially at conception. It's just much more convenient for them to stay in that mindset. And it's sad, because it's wrong. It's wrong. So thank you.
God bless you, Ralph. Appreciate the phone
in.
call there in Carmel, Indiana. Next up is Tom in the great state of North Dakota, listening to EWTN on Real Presence Radio. Tom, thanks for calling back. You're on with Barbara McGuigan.
Hi, Tom.
Hello, how are we doing?
I'm great, thanks. How are you? You're in a great state there for pro-life laws, are you not?
Oh, well, I couldn't tell you. I'm actually from East Texas. I'm just working up here.
Oh, okay. I see ND there, so I see. I got you. Okay. Thought you were.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So how can we help?
I got a couple questions for you. I mean, I guess we'll get this out of the way. I myself am not a very religious man. I grew up Catholic. I was raised Catholic. I'm just not a very religious guy, which is not why I'm calling. There's no, I'm good to you, you're good to me, that kind of thing. I got a couple questions for you. I've been listening to the show on my drive.
Uh-huh.
What are your opinions, because I heard you mention that you are supportive of punishment for doctors who give an abortion. What are your opinions on these people that go and, a doctor's walking into her office and somebody beats the heck out of her, or, shoots their doctor that gave their ex-wife an abortion because she actually wanted to?
Now, Tom, what would you think that I think about this?
Just curious what your
What would you think?
Where do you draw the line?
What would you think I would think about this? In other words, you're talking about someone, and every movement has a loose cannon or two. And usually it comes down to some form of mental illness, right? I mean, pretty much so is the case. Why would you ever want to take this matter in your own hands and shoot anyone connected with abortion? Why would you want to do that? Because then you're not giving them a chance to convert. You're not giving them a chance to change their mind and heart. You're cutting them off at a terrible time when they're still believing in murder and seeing it as an act of love for these poor women. You know? So whether it's a man or a woman, whatever, that is not what we believe in the pro-life movement. And anyone who thinks that is completely unaware of our mindset. Completely unaware. So obviously that would be a wrong thing to do. So thank you so much for your call, though. That's a good question, even still.
Thanks so much. Appreciate the phone call. We'll head quickly to Yonkers, New York, where Nick is listening to EWTN Radio. Nick, you're on with Barbara McGuigan.
Hi, Nick. Hi.
Hi. Thank you for all you do. Thank you to EWTN.
Praise God.
Especially, on today for the visitation. It's talking about pro-life issues. That's really wonderful.
Yes.
But my question actually goes back to the discussion about Marxism and this real that form of secular collectivism. I just wanted to talk about that, and my question was really that I don't see Marxism as much, at least with the younger generation. I'm like about 25. I see maybe on the other side of the spectrum of that secular coin is I see like a real individualism that doesn't even want to participate in any form of proletariat revolutionary where people don't even seem concerned with other people, that they don't I don't want to do anything for other people. I don't owe anything to anyone. And so, it's kind of terrible because they seem like they're both opposite responses to the same problem. And
so who do you think is guilty of this, Nick? Who do you think is guilty of this?
Oh, well, I think I think what you said is certainly not invalid about, the architects coming from, this Marxist background. But I just wanted to, say, how can we, get a real feel on the pulse of what's happening with culture now? Because you're right that we're certainly seeing these after effects of Marxism, but it just.
Well, it's still going on, and that's a shame. But stick with Mother Church. Stick with Mother Church. Read about the teachings, her social teachings, and you will have a true handle on it, because we've had plenty of popes who have spoken out against Marxism. It is serious. It is very serious. And before you know it, you have communism, totalitarianism. It's all there.
Barbara, thanks so much for being so gracious with your time. We're back at it again tomorrow. Tim Staples sitting in for Father Mitch. Until then, God bless.